We're here today at the Delaware River Basin Commission to deliver a letter signed by over 1,200 concerned organizations and impacted community members, urging the agency to communicate to the PennEast Pipeline project that the information that PennEast has provided to the DRBC is so inaccurate, so deficient, so factually incorrect, that the Delaware River Basin Commission is unable to even review the permit application for the PennEast Pipeline project, let alone render a decision on it. Organizations, individuals, and other agencies have made very clear that the PennEast Pipeline Company has provided false, inaccurate, and deficient information on the PennEast Pipeline project. And as a result, the Delaware River Basin Commission, like the state of New Jersey, like the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, is unable to render an informed decision on this pipeline project. With this letter signed by over 1,200 individuals and organizations, we are urging the Delaware River Basin Commission to take the same stance that the state of New Jersey has taken, that the DRBC is unable to render an informed decision on the PennEast Pipeline project because of this inaccurate, deficient, ill-informed information that has been provided. We are here with this letter signed by over 1,200 individuals and organizations to urge the Delaware River Basin Commission to not even think about scheduling hearings or public comment on the PennEast Pipeline project, because the information is simply not there to allow for informed decision-making or informed comment. And we are here with this letter to urge the Delaware River Basin Commission to make very clear to the PennEast Pipeline Company that DRBC will not allow for any construction activity on PennEast until such time as DRBC has rendered approval for this project. That position is critically important. Now that there's a quorum restored at the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, we are anticipating the FERC rubber stamp approval for the PennEast Pipeline project. We do know that the state of Pennsylvania is on track to issue all of its approvals for the PennEast Pipeline Company. If the state of Pennsylvania issues approvals and FERC has issued its certificate, we might find ourselves in a situation where the PennEast Pipeline Company is seeking to begin construction in Pennsylvania at the very least. So it's critically important for the DRBC to make clear, no DRBC docket, no PennEast construction allowed. We also know, of course, that construction cannot begin in New Jersey because New Jersey has done the right thing, and New Jersey has said, we don't have the kind of information, the quality of information necessary to render a decision on this project, so they've literally closed the books on their review of PennEast at this time.
We're here today asking the Delaware River Basin Commission just one simple thing: do your job. We know that the whole EIS process has been flawed. We know that the things that are stated in that EIS are so full of holes that the EIS could have been printed on Swiss cheese. We know that it's missing key information. We also know that a lot of the information there is false and misleading. PennEast is entitled to their opinion. They're not entitled to alternative facts, especially in a document that's supposed to assess the impacts of a 114-mile-long pipeline cutting through this watershed, not only creating an ugly scar, but threatening drinking water for 17 million people, crossing more than 256 streams, more than 4 dozen wetlands, crossing the main stem of the Delaware River. And these areas, were set aside, many of them, as open space. They're regulated not only by the DRBC and have special protection waters, but they're Category 1 waters in New Jersey, having the highest quality of water. There's endangered species, again, parks, people swimming, fishing. It's really an incredible resource that they're really going to harm. And that's why the DRBC needs to stand up to PennEast, look at the facts, not the alternative facts, and kick out their permits. There's not enough information for DRBC to actually evaluate what they've submitted. There's not enough information for DRBC to even ask questions to them because it's just so misleading and so missing in information. We know on the New Jersey side, 70% of the property owners didn't let them on their property. Even Governor Christie's DEP, and our governor hasn't met a pipeline he didn't like, said that this is deficient and flawed and kicked out their permits. And it means that they won't even be able to file for permits in New Jersey for a few months or even longer because they're missing so much information. It could actually take a year or more. But the same thing is true in what they've submitted to the DRBC. If it's true for New Jersey, that it's missing a lot of information. It would take them years to fill in the blanks because it is mostly blank. But also on top of that, there was an appellate court case just 2 weeks ago where the appellate court ruled that you have to look at climate change and greenhouse gases when you build pipelines. We know the EIS didn't because we all raised that issue. So we know the EIS is flawed. We know it won't stand up to court muster if we get to court. And we know that the DRBC is responsible to protect this watershed and to protect this drinking water. And we need the DRBC to do its job to deny and kick out their permits, not even go forward with the EIS because it's so flawed. You know, we were glad that the DRBC had agreed to separate the EIS process, their EIS process, from FERC and hold multiple hearings. But you can't hold multiple hearings on a document that's, you know, basically should not be accepted by the DRBC as a final EIS because it's so flawed. So we're here today to say to the DRBC, don't ruin the basin commissioners. Do your job. Listen to the public. Listen to all the groups and people who've signed on to this letter. But just listen to everyone in this basin that says, we don't want this pipeline. We don't need it. It's unnecessary. It's damaging and dangerous. So please do your job and kick out their permits and deny their EIS. Thank you.
You know, we're here today because for close to 3 years, the Delaware River Basin Commission has been hearing from hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands of people in this watershed that they need to do their job to protect the watershed and to stop the ecological damage that PennEast would provide. And DRBC, to its credit, you know, close to 3 years ago said it would fully review the PennEast project. Now, we obviously, you know, have had a long 3-year process, and PennEast has not delivered. DRBC has said that they will divorce their analysis directly from FERC, and that's good because FERC's rubber stamp is clearly hanging over all of us right now. And we know that after meeting at DRBC, there is a clear and resounding call from the public for the DRBC to fulfill its mission. And especially now, with the rubber stamp of FERC standing over us, it's even more important that DRBC listen to the public. And that's why we're coming to knock on their door, because the public has been knocking on DRBC's door for close to 3 years, but so has PennEast. And PennEast has been sending out their surveyors all across the watershed to intimidate landowners and say that, you know, this project is going to happen. And that arrogance has been reflected time and again on what they've submitted. New Jersey DEP did the right thing earlier this spring by saying that their application was sufficient, and then when they did not fulfill the requirements, rejecting that application. And that's ultimately what DRBC needs to do. DRBC cannot be a mini FERC in this watershed. It needs to stand by its mission. It needs to follow the lead of New Jersey DEP and ensure that it has full and complete data, because PennEast has been failing on that. And that's why we're here today, because we're knocking on DRBC's door because we want to remind them that the public is watching. And we know that it's a rigged game at FERC down in Washington. And that's why we are so dependent upon the Delaware River Basin Commission to fulfill its ecological mission and ensure that the voices of the 1,300 organizations and people who represent tens and hundreds of thousands of members and citizens here in the watershed are not lost. That's why we're here today, because DRBC needs to fulfill its ecological mission.